Hello everybody and welcome. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to MotorSport Manager. This is a condensed edit of the start of Season 4 of the career, specifically the first 6 races. I wanted to try a different format for this one, try my hand at editing a bit, and make videos that are better paced and suited for what YouTube is these days. Do let me know what you think in the comments, and while you're down there, drop a like and subscribe maybe? With the shilling out of the way, let's go to preseason. Last season, we finished in an honorable P6 in the standings with a victory for Shen Qi, who had a very bumpy season start with quite a few DNFs. When she could keep it on track though, she was quick. But this irregularity cost us a lot, and we could have been P4 in the team standings. On the other side of the garage, an aging Girard is reaching the end of his contract, and with his dip in form in the latter half of the season, we're looking for a potential replacement. Oh, and following advice from the comments, I also fired a reserve driver to save on money, because the finances have been rocky to say the least. If we aim at getting promoted this season, we're going to need to improve our cash flow. Rachel McAndrew has joined us at the end of last season, as Billy, our previous engineer, was not making any more progress. For designer Vasily, he's not bad, but we may want to consider a replacement, as his contract is running out too. And on that topic, it's time to design our new car. I initially go for all the expensive stuff, but money issues at the end of last season mean that we can't afford that. Instead, I take the best engine, since it's one of our strong suits, but compromise on fuel and brakes. Improvability is not going to matter too much since, well, we'll be too broke to take the supplier's offers to improve the parts anyway. We end up renewing Vasily, despite him being a bit weak on the gearbox, per lack of better options. On the driver's side, Genki Kawashima looks amazing, but is asking for truckloads of money. I make an offer, but kind of hope he will refuse. Same story with Millie Davis. Jonas Brownlich is looking good, even if he's maxed out, and at least more within our budget. I do a little bit more scouting, including trying to poach other team's drivers, but it's not looking too promising. In the end, and as Gerard's contract runs out, we end up signing Jonas Brownlich. He won't improve, but he's slightly better than Girard and doesn't cost us too much more. Whether or not this was a good idea remains to be seen. We're off to a rocky start because we immediately piss off Jonas by having the press visit our HQ. Look, I'm sorry Jonas, but we need the marketability to reap with our sponsors. Money's gonna be tight this season. Not that it was any good in the previous ones. And showcasing that, we can't afford a tire upgrade. However, we can pull out dirt on some Pelly again, who probably deserve it considering what they did to Silbercius' car last year, to increase our own marketability some more in the process. Jonas is so upset, in fact, he gets a new haircut. Not sure how that will help, but hey, whatever makes him feel better, I guess. And that increases his own marketability too, so I'm not complaining. Now it's time for the new livery. I really liked last year's livery, so I don't want to change it too much. Okay, we'll go for that. Not sure if it's an improvement, but I don't hate it either. Not like the low-res rendering during the races showcases it all too well anyway. Time to take the track. And oh boy, is this looking concerning, and not helping with Jonas' morale. We are way down the order, and cannot even blame reliability for our poor performance. We came into the season with the intention of getting promoted, but I'm starting to wonder if we're even going to reach our chairman's target this season. But seeing how we ended last year strong and made plenty of strong parts, I'm still going to commit to finishing P4 in the championship. Plus, we really need the cash. Hopefully we don't get fired from our own team. That would be awkward. And here's the starting car. Last year's work paid off, and we have a strong base. We immediately make a new gearbox, which will be good for the second race. I'm also taking advice from you guys, not making any risky parts at the start of the season, to be able to use them immediately, keeping the very risky parts for the season ending, and get a stronger car next year. Hopefully we get promoted, and it won't matter too much. Right, I'm starting to get my doubts. And hey, it's Jonas' birthday. Not only don't do it, but he really needs a pick-me-up, so let's throw a party for him. Why not? Don't want him to leave or be poached by another team. The European Racing Series starts in Dubai, don't ask. And since that track is going to be super hot, we don't go on the super softs, but softs, as they won't degrade nearly as fast. As proof, the softs are already overheated after a full lap of pushing. We top the session, but that doesn't mean much as the AI tends to be quite woeful during practice anyway. At least it's reassuring compared to pre-season testing. No quality in the series, the grid is reverse order. It's 5 red lights, and where we go for the first race of the season. He has a bad start from P3, but Brownlich is just tearing through the pack at an amazing pace. Starting from P13, he's already P7 at the end of the first sector, and P5 across the line. I do have to tell them to stop pushing on the tires though, otherwise they'll just fade in no time. We're firmly amongst the super soft tire runners in P6 and P7 at the end of lap 2. He dives up the inside for a great move in the final corner by the end of lap 3, while Brownlich is a bit stuck in P6, but not for long. The race settles a bit from there. The pack is stretching out, and Rees in the lead is checked out by 4 seconds. Liao is pushing hard and overtaking both our drivers, but the super soft tires are going to start degrading heavily by now. The first pit stop window of the season is coming. For our first stop, we fixed Jonah's suspension. We didn't prioritize it during pre-season fixing, as we know we can fix it for free during a race, unlike the gearbox and engines, which cost way more time to fix on track. Softs are looking good, so that's our pick, and we do the same for Key's car. The undercut almost worked for Brownlich on Davis, but she joins back just in front and Jonas has to pile on the brakes. I'm sure that must be a penalty for unsafe region, but the stewards are asleep. The heat, probably. Well, overall, P4 and P6 isn't bad. During the second stint, a couple of cars make their way past us, including Boissieu, who seems very quick today. Plus, we have to stop pushing to make sure our tires don't overheat. Problem is, our engine is looking worse for wear too, so we take it easy on the throttle, but we can't be the only ones in this situation. The smells of engine repairs during the next pit stop. And that will be sooner than expected or wanted. At least when our driver leaves the pits, it's in clear air and fresh rubber, and they have enough fuel to get to the end of the race. Hopefully, the suspension and gearbox both hold. And now you know why I prioritize improving reliability for the first few races. We do the same for Key, letting her out on super softs, as her final stint is quite short. Unfortunately, a big mistake on the rear ends up costing us several precious seconds. That's what happens when you take risks. When all is said and done and everybody has pitted, we're down in P9 and P11 with banged up suspensions, and now we start playing the game of who will DNF first. First one is Millie Davis from P2. That's revenge for that unsafe rejoin earlier. Next, Van locks up but keeps the car going. Our drivers tell us they need to box, but we're not doing that with 2 laps to go. Zubkov runs wide, and we enter the final lap. Our 2 drivers are neck and neck, dragging their broken cars around, but still trying to make moves on Elegard and Sabato. In the end, they go 3 wide in the final hairpin, and Brownlich takes a P7 by a hair. Not too bad of the result, but I was kind of hoping for better. Meanwhile, at the top, it's Liao, the new transfer from Dragon Race Team China to Zampelli Engineering, who takes the top spot of the podium. We're 4th in the team standings, which is where we said we would be, so that's good. After the race, as we receive and fit our new gearbox and start improving its reliability, we immediately make a new suspension, then a new engine. We need that extra pace. We sign a new sponsor, taking the cash because we're not betting on ourselves finishing on the podium every race, but it's still good to see the increased marketability is giving us higher tier sponsors. In fact, we've got the best ones on the grid. Chen lets me know she's just in good form and is going to do amazingly next race. I'll hold her up to that statement. And that inspired Jonas because he's decided to mentor Key and help her improve faster, which is very welcome. She's got amazing potential, but we've been struggling to develop her skills fully. The same way she's been struggling to keep the car on track last season, now that I think about it. In Munich, practice looks like it's going to be wet, but the race shouldn't be. As such, I pondered on the tire type to go in for practice, and then on softs. As well, our driver's smoothness isn't all that, we definitely seem to need the pace. We topped the session again, but that's because we had a good tune right from the get-go, and it started raining. Except the race is not going to be dry. It's going to be an absolute downpour all the way throughout. Full wet it is then, and that's for the whole grid. After a decent start for Brownleach, he runs wide at turn 3. It's last season all over again. I was fuming in the pit box. Form of 10 my foot. Jonas, on the other hand, starts to work his way through the pack, only to immediately lose more positions than he gained. On lap 3, we're dead last. At least the pack is still very much bunched up, so we have a choice of jumping cars in the pits. Except for the leader, Davies, who after her mechanical DNF starts to quickly run away with it. At least it gives us this funny double move on Shu in the start-finish straight, but that ain't a Predator, so that's kind of to be expected. Boxing Key to try the undercut on the Inters, and do the same for Jonas a lap later. At least one of our cars will make its way up. We also fixed the suspensions, because we still haven't really worked on them between races, gearbox and engines taking precedence. He comes out in clear air, but a 3-second mistake for Jonas makes us bleed very precious undercut time. When everybody's pitted, Key's in P9. However, other drivers seem to have had interesting ideas and went straight for the slicks. While the track is drying out, I believe that's a mistake. We want to push our Inters to the end of lap 17 at least, so we can make it to the end on a set of slicks and a full tank of fuel. We P7 and P8 by the end of our second stint, Jonas having done a good job of catching up. We send Key in first and fix her suspension, again, only to have a mistake on the rear left, again. That's a 27% chance of it happening, and it's already happened twice. Never mind, make that 3, because Brownledge gets it 2 on refueling. I'm going to start believing in sabotage here. What are these XCOM percentages? Once everybody's pitted twice, we're running P10 and P11. Kind of a letdown, but it seems some of the others in front are going to have to box again, as Shen starts complaining about her gearbox. Look, I know it's clunky, but you've got to push it to the end. On lap 28 out of 29 out of suspected, a few cars have to box for fresh boots, fuel and repairs, and that propels us up. In the end, we end up at a respectable P6 and P8. A solid result, but boy was that a struggle. At least I don't think the mistakes in the pits impeded us too much, seeing the gaps. And it's Davis taking the checkered flag after a dominant display. Semi Young gets demoted for illegal parts as early as race 2. Both our drivers make ground in the standings and we remain in P4. Unfortunately, our chairman doesn't see it that way and is a bit disappointed in this. We still have a shot at the championship. I know it. I want to believe. Key says she's madly in love with Jonas?
Huh?
Wait a second, wasn't she with Gerard before we let him go? Guess the game doesn't know what to do with us swapping drivers and only associated the teammate status. Yeah, either that or Shen is a very, very naughty girl. I don't judge. Our brand new design center immediately gets put to good use, as we get an offer to improve our engine performance for 600 grand. Before Monza? 35 engine performance? Yes, please, I'll take 2. And just before the new engine is ready too. We fit it, we fix it, and start working on a new gearbox for the next race. Vasily is working extra hours. We are burning through fonts, but I want an early edge. The GMA offers to replace Guildford with Vancouver in the European Racing Series. There must be a colonialism joke in there somewhere, but that's beneath me. In any case, I don't really care, and Vancouver will be on the calendar next season. But for now, It's off to Italy we go. At the Temple of Speed. Tire is pretty low around here, as it's basically a giant straight with 2 corners and 2 chicanes, so we bet on soft and go to practice. Midway through the session though, rain is on the horizon. We could go out there in the wet with slicks, but I'd rather not bin the car during practice, if that's even a thing. Guess we won't have that much experience with the slicks for the race. We top the session again, because we always do, and now that I think about it, I'm not sure the AI pushes it all during practice. Anyway, we take to the grid with a very good setup. 20 minutes is basically overkill to get great or excellent setups anyway. I was told in the comments not to underfuel at the start because the advantage is cancelled out by the pack being bunched up and it gives us less flexibility. It's a good idea, I just have to beat the reflex out of my skull. Can be sure I'll miss a pit window and the driver will run out of fuel before I get used to this. As the lights go out, he gets an okay start, but Brownlich gets boxed in at turn 1. It being Monza turn 1, chaos ensues, and a purple car goes wide, but for once it's not Key, it's Vananen. I almost got upset there. The pack is very bunched up and they go 3 wide through Ascari. I wouldn't dare. Our superior engine shows up at the start of lap 2 though, with the most chaotic turn 1 I've ever seen, even without the chicane. How did they all make it out alive is beyond me, but hey, we're making positions. Our drivers are even having fun, pulling a Hakkinen Schumacher move on El Sadat, who, unlike Ricardo Zonta, wasn't being lapped. I'm having fun watching this too. So much so, in fact, I don't notice our tires are getting cooked. Whoops. But with that, a couple of laps later, that's both our drivers on the podium. We love Monza. Our tires though, not so much. We make a last minute call and box Key for fresh boots. We're gonna have to be a bit more careful with the tires next stint. We call Brownlich in next lap, but I'm getting concerned about our engine wear. Will we make it? We may not be able to push and fuel all the way through the race, which is a shame for our powerful engine. Our early stop unfortunately doesn't work for the undercut on Liao, who chose hard tires for his second stint. We're not really catching up though. That is, until Liao runs what at turn 1, and we're now running P1, P2. Stop the count. Unfortunately, that does not last. Scramby is just too quick on their fresh soft and passes Key easily, setting their sights on Jonas in the lead. Our fears come true a few laps later, as Key's engine is looking shady and will most likely not make it to the end, being at 33% barely after the halfway point of the race. It will cost us 10 seconds, but we will have to repair it. It's better than a mechanical DNF after all. We make the gamble for Jonas though and don't repair his engine, as we want to maintain track position. We won't be able to push, but I'm taking that risk for a podium. Both our drivers come out in clear air, and now we hope the strategy worked. We did come out in front of Liao, but on fresher rubber, that's an easy pass from them. However, Stromby leaving the pits causes chaos, and we manage to overtake in turn 1. That's short-lived though, and Liao passes back a few corners later. The win is at play here. At the back, Key is nowhere. Her extra long pit stop put her in traffic and she's struggling on the mediums. Jonas' engine is about to give out, so we have to take it easy. In the end, it's a podium for Jonas and a P11 for Key after a late move on Masalella. I guess that new engine just wasn't ready enough in time. Overall, first podium with us for Jonas, who jumps up in the standings to P4. Even better, we're now P3 in the team standings. The chairman is quite happy with the race result too. Shen Qi, much less so, and I must have missed something happening in turn 1 because she now hates his guts. It happens. As soon as we get home, our new gearbox is built. We put it in Jonas' car, and he is elated. Time to work on suspensions next, and it's even sort of cheap. And on the subject of money, we now have 12 new sponsors to choose from. We picked Gustavo Cruises as our main sponsor again, as P10 seems reasonable with our current pace. P2 really doesn't though, so I just take the 200 grand in cash. And as for the next two, I just take whatever will net us more money in the end. Our cost per race is still massive with 6 races still to go. We're barely breaking even as of now. And Rachel McAndrew, our new mechanic, leaking our secrets will definitely not help. Well, she's going to pay us back some money, because I just can't fire her right now. I don't know how legal that is, but I'll happily take the cash. The new suspension arrives and I start working on an engine. It's expensive, but probably worth it. Except it's not, as the components aren't that good. Even the great ones we'd unlock if we made even more engines. So instead, I go for a risky gearbox, just to unlock the grain component later. Probably should have done that on the previous one, all things considered. Next up is Portugal, and oh my, look at the downforce and acceleration they want on the car. I'm thinking soft tires or super softs won't last with this track temperature on the slow and twisty layout. As usual, we top practice and head out on the grid on Sunday. Nice mix of tires from everyone. This should be a race of strategy more than sheer pace, as overtaking isn't easy around here. It's an okay start from both our drivers, who keep position, but Jonas needs to do better on his softs and start making places on the medium tire runners. There's yo-yoing for position constantly, and at least it's thanks to driver skills and not running out of battery on a straight or lifting and coasting 200 meters before the breaking point. God, Spa 2026 was a farce.
And no f***ing battery down the straight.
Yeah. At the start of lap 5, we're P15 and P16, which is not the progress we wanted. Hopefully, pitting will help, because the leader, Brito Trindade for Dragon Race Team China, has checked out from the pack. And that's when Jonas decides he is done with this. Just in the final corner, he goes from P16 to P12, braking late, finding traction when nobody else does. A few corners later, it's another 2 positions, and another in the next one. You'd think he'd stop there, but he begs to differ, and makes another position in the final corner for good measure. With the cars that pitted, it's from P16 to P4 in a single lap. More of that, please. Well, I say that, but his tires don't. He still makes a move for the lead in the final corner, because that's just how he is today, and starts pushing in clear air as I tell Key to box for a fresh pair of boots. Some drivers have pitted before us, and we want to make up as much time as we can on them before rejoining after our own pit stop, which we perform at the end of lap 10. Unfortunately, Jonas comes out in traffic, but is only 3 seconds away from Ellegaard, who pitted way before us. Not letting himself be affected by this, he immediately starts making moves again. Everybody is on different strategies and compounds, so we'll only really know who's where when everybody's done their final stop. The pack is very close, P10 being only a second and a half from P3. All that fighting allows Young and Key to join the peloton for an even bigger brawl. This is what Monaco wishes it was like. Just like during our first stint, we want to make moves on medium tire runners, and Jonas is happy to deliver. He's running P6 and Keys in P9 as the first cars start to box for the second stop, which is a bit early seeing how there's still 15 laps to go and fuel just won't last that long. I guess some of them are going for a 3-stop strategy, including Liao, the leader, who seems incredibly quick on his super softs, getting fastest lap after fastest lap. We box Chen on lap 19 for the fuel tank and a fresh set of mediums, as I don't think she can manage to make softs last to the end. For Jonas though, I do take that chance, as he should just be able to bring them to the checkered flag. When all's said and done for the second round of stops, we're running P5, but I'm sure some drivers will go for a third stop, like Liao in the lead or Stone Jr., whose tires are just dead. They're pretty much driving in the rims at this point. And after a few laps where not much happens, it seems I'm right. Liao has come in, but on lap 31 out of 32, Key, who is running in absolute no man's land, sees Ellegaard and Sabado pit from in front of her. I guess they just didn't take enough fuel to make it to the end. That propels Jonas just below the podium, and Keen P9 now has the defender chasing Eligard on fresh softs. She does the job and then some, as Masalella is basically stopped at the last corner with ruined tires, probably a puncture, losing 10 seconds in his final lap. That gives us a solid P4, P8 finish, which isn't all that bad. A rocky start to this one, but pretty solid throughout. In the standings, Key drops a bit, but the team maintains P3 for now. However, the gap to P5 is still a measly 10 points, which is far from comfortable enough as we near the midpoint of the season. Oh, and William? Shove it. As soon as the race finishes, the new gearbox is here, but it's not a legal one, so I'm making another we can race with this time. And seeing our budget, it's probably the end of the massive spending for now, because there's still 6 races to go. Now we focus on our current parts performance, with a side of reliability for good measure. You never know. We're asked to be bribed to force a vote. I checked the future ones, and you know what, Bill? I don't mind giving you 1 vote. Give me money. Which is funny, because the vote doesn't even pass. Thanks for the freebie, Bill. I totally didn't forget to record the vote, by the way. We're off to Spa, and our car is looking good. It's a power track, isn't that right, Mr. George Russell? And our engine is going to love it. And as proof, boy, do they want long gears. Surprise, surprise, we top practice. And Shen, no, I don't think you'll beat Jonas to pole in qualifying, seeing as there's no qualifying in this series. She may be a bit too in love for her own good. Tires last super long in here, so fuel will definitely be the bottleneck with these long straights. No rain on the horizon, so we take to the grid full of confidence. Hopefully, not misplaced. It's a decent start, but without clear air, our powerful engine isn't doing much. He makes a few positions, while Jonas loses some. It's quite a tight battle in the opening laps, and drivers go side by side through every corner, thinking they're driving NASCAR or something. A few laps in, Jonas is making a few good overtakes, while Key is quite irregular. He ends up overtaking Key on lap 6, with the pack still pretty bunched up. I bring Shen in for her first stop at the end of lap 7, and put I bring Shen in for her first stop at the end of lap 7, and put on super softs, as they definitely seem to be the better race tyre here. Or maybe they're not, seeing how everybody's rubber has faded and Jonas is starting to make moves at the end of his own stint. As we tell him to bring the car in though, Brito Trindade puts it in the wall, which is perfect for our Austrian driver. Not so much for Key and Have the Grid, who pitted the lap prior. We restart in P3 and P18, and push on the tyres a bit as the safety car heads to the garage to get some heat in the rubber and avoid graining. Which was definitely a good idea, because cold tyres, or maybe the sheer pressure of leading the restart, makes Boissieu run wide at Le Source. Jonas wasn't asking for this much, as he easily makes a move on Young and to take the lead of the race. Now he's got fresh tyres, clear air, and a powerful engine to stretch his legs. He's making moves in the back too, going from P18 at the restart to P12 when we bring her in for her final stop. Her engine is looking a bit dodgy though, so we won't overfuel and won't push on the final stint. She leaves in free air and can use her engine to gain some time. Not wanting to be overcut, we bring Jonas in on the next lap, fueling a bit more as I think his engine can take it. He actually gain timed in the pits, as when Young leaves the pit lane, we're over 4 seconds ahead. At this moment, Subaru bitches his Firebird at turn 1, bringing out yellows. Now we just have to control from the front for a little less than 5 laps. But maybe I was being optimistic on Jonas' engine, which looks worse for wear. This track really destroys the power units. We have to take it a bit easier on the throttle, but with a 4 seconds gap with 4 laps to go, we've got a good chance. In the final lap, Key makes the move on Stromby, totally not because he ran wide or anything, and that puts her in P8. Overall a solid result when we consider her bad luck with the safety car. But the real star today is Jonas Brownlish, bagging his first victory with us and granting us our first trophy of the season. No movement for us in the driver standings, but Key consolidates a top 10 and Jonas is only 5 points away from P2. In the team standings, we're now 19 points ahead of P5, having made 9 just in this race. This puts us in a more comfortable position for our season objective at P4, and we can even dream of chasing P2. Promotion, however, is looking unlikely at the mid-stage of the season. The chairman is happy with my job, and a happy chairman is a chairman I'm going to ask extra money to whenever their happiness is maxed out. For now, and ahead of a month-long break, we don't make new parts but improve on the current ones, with a bit of reliability to ensure we can go the whole way without having to lift or risk mechanical failures. Ernie tries to get us to fork out $1 million to trigger the vote, which we politely decline. We're broke, Ernie, and our chairman knows it. At least our current car is looking good. Very good, in fact, and the game says we have the second fastest car on the grid behind Zampelli. Only our gearbox seems to hold us back somewhat. Oh, and apparently our drivers too, but I'm sure it's all very close between the top drivers. We're off to Munich, which looks suspiciously like the Hockenheimring, as moved cities, and it's in Switzerland on the map somehow.
Huh?
Okay. We have a rainy practice ahead, but we're still betting on the softs for the race. I do believe we'll need the extra pace. Now, take a guess at who tops the session. You get 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count. Us. It's us. We top practice. But Liao and Rees are looking quick for Zampelli, the top team in the standings. If we want to fight for promotion, they're the ones we're going to have to beat. Yeah, me too, Shen. Me too. Game says the softs can last for 10 laps and the race is only 25, so it seems my bet was the correct one. And look at that setup, 99%. That's gotta be my record. As the 5 red lights go out, we have a pretty good start from both our drivers. The same cannot be said for Stone Jr., who runs white at turn 1. Meanwhile, Brownlegs is already in 14th after said turn. Even better, by the end of lap 1, we're P6 and P11. Maybe we do have a very good car after all. However, Rees is already P9 and on hard tires. Speaking of tires, after a couple of laps, it seems ours won't exactly last the promised 10. And as I put it in my notes, and I quote, "Duh, you took the softer compound, you mouth breather." I guess I was upset at myself there. On lap 4, we're already under attack by Rees, as her teammate Liao still struggles a bit more to make ground. It did benefit Jonas though, as he followed her through the pack and is now P7. And on lap 5, Rees is closing in on Shen with Jonas in tow. Not letting that deter her, Key decides the best way to stay safe from Rees is to put 2 cars between them, which she does. And you know what? I don't disagree. Well, for a whole sector that is, until Rees does the exact same thing. Ugh. Jonas will annoy Rees and make sure her mid is filled with blue and purple, even overtaking her, as we call Shen early for new boots. Seeing the tire wear, we go out on mediums, on which we will have significantly less pace, but beggars can't be choosers, and against the Zampelli, we're definitely not choosers. Maybe I should have gone for the medium as our race tires. Jonas makes a great move around Vanana in the final corner before we call him in 2. Now both our drivers can push and clear air to try and undercut the rest of the field. And as other cars start pitting, it seems we've done a good job, since on lap 10 we're running effectively P2, P3. If we manage to extend that stint, we may even be able to go to the much faster softs for our final one. However, Chu is charging through the field on softs, while Rees has fallen slightly. May have been a mistake in the pits. As we start lap 12, I'm thinking that things are looking okay on fuel, and that I can tell my drivers to press the throttle out of the corners a bit more. Hearing that, Jonas decides to keep turning left on a straight, which is a suboptimal trajectory, and puts his car in the wall.
No!
He wasn't even pushing.
No! I
destroyed the cow!
Pressure from
No!
behind must have gotten to him. No, that's a disaster for our season. Now, Key's form is in the gutter, and Reese is making a big comeback, overtaking her teammate. I bring Key at the end of lap 15, going on the softs for 10 laps. It's risky, but we have to take risks to salvage something from this one. We will, however, tell her to take it easy on this compound. Unfortunately, we leave the pits in traffic. We're ahead of Reese when she leaves the pits, but miles behind the hour after this. What's more, 4 laps from the finish, we try to keep Reese behind, but on worn tires, it's looking like a tall order. Too tall for Shen, in fact, as Reese passes easily. But it's not just Reese. Young is coming with more pace and fresher softs, and Sabato is not far behind. Fortunately, we managed to keep Sabato behind and ended up crossing the line in P6. What a disaster of a race. It's a P6, but with a better tire choice, better strategy, and Jonas not putting his car in the wall, at what would look like the silliest accident ever, this could have easily been so much more. And we don't even get penalties to get a couple of points. Jonas falls to P5, while Key raises to P8. In the team standings, however, we're down to P4, once again with only 10 points in head on P5, with even Silver 19 points behind. We're going to have to do better, and hope for the miracle on the last 4 races of the season. However, these races will have their dedicated episodes, as that's all the time I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this new format. Do let me know what you think in the comments. It took me a while to get that up. I had 2 weeks worth of episodes ready before going in this. Had to record 6 whole episodes, take notes, write the script, record the voiceover, which I'm doing right now, and then I'm going to have to do all the editing, which is... This is going to be interesting. It's Saturday at 6 p.m. right now. I don't know when I'm going to be done with the editing, but it's probably... I'm not sure I'm going to be done at the end of the weekend. Anyway, we'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And yeah. I hope you had a good one. I sure did. And I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.